You think he likes you. You think because he kept coming back, because he pulled you close in the dark, because he looked at you like you were the only person in the room, that it means something real. And then he disappears again. And you sit there wondering what you did wrong, what you said, what changed. And the answer is nothing. You did nothing wrong. But here is what nobody is telling you. An avoidant man will sleep with you easily. He will text you at midnight. He will show up when he needs something. He will make you feel like the most important person in his world for exactly as long as it is comfortable for him. And the moment real intimacy knocks on the door, he is gone. But here is the part that changes everything. If an avoidant man actually loves you, genuinely, deeply, in a way that even surprises him, he will do something completely different. And most women never see it because they are not looking for the right signs. They are looking for the loud ones, the grand gestures, the I love yous, the flowers. An avoidant love does not speak that language. It speaks in something quieter, something most people miss entirely. So if you have ever been confused about where you stand with an avoidant man, if you have ever asked yourself whether what you have is real or just convenient, stay with me, because what I am about to share with you will make everything click. And I mean everything. Before we go any further, I want you to do one thing right now. Drop the word avoidant in the comments. Just that one word. Because if you are watching this, you are probably dealing with one. And I want to know. Also hit subscribe, because this channel is dedicated to giving you the kind of emotional clarity that actually changes how you move in your relationships. Now let us get into it. Let us start at the very beginning. Because to understand what it looks like when an avoidant man truly loves you, you first have to understand what an avoidant man actually is. Not the clinical definition, not the textbook stuff, the real, lived, everyday version of what this looks like in your life. An avoidant man learned something very early in life. He learned that needing people is dangerous. He learned, usually from a parent or a caregiver, that when you reach out for closeness, when you show vulnerability, when you let someone see the real you, something bad happens. You get rejected. You get ignored. You get overwhelmed or shamed. And so his nervous system made a deal with itself. It said, okay, we are not doing that again. We are going to be self-sufficient. We are going to be independent. We are going to handle everything on our own, and we are never, ever going to let someone get close enough to hurt us like that again. And that deal served him. For a long time, it worked. It kept him safe. It kept him functional. It kept him from the kind of pain that feels unsurvivable when you are a child who just wants to be loved. But here is the problem. That same protective mechanism that saved him as a child is now destroying his relationships as an adult. Because you cannot have real love without closeness. You cannot have real intimacy without vulnerability. And vulnerability is the exact thing his entire nervous system is wired to avoid. So what does he do instead? He keeps things surface level. He keeps things physical. He keeps things fun and light and non-committal. And sex, actual physical intimacy, that feels manageable to him. Because sex does not require emotional exposure. Sex does not require him to sit with his feelings. Sex does not require him to say, I am scared, I need you, I am afraid of losing you. Sex can be intense and close and connecting without any of the emotional risk that actually terrifies him. This is why sleeping with you is easy for an avoidant man. Not because you are not special, but because it does not cost him the thing he is most afraid to give, his real self. And this is the first thing I need you to really sit with. When an avoidant man keeps coming back for physical connection, but pulls away from emotional depth, it is not a compliment. It is not evidence that he cares. It is evidence that he has found a way to get closeness without the cost. And that is not love. That is comfort. That is convenience. and you deserve to know the difference. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, but he is so sweet when we are together. He looks at me like he means it. He holds me like he does not want to let go. And I believe you. I absolutely believe that in those moments, something real is happening. Avoidant men are not faking the warmth. They are not pretending when they pull you close. In that moment, they genuinely want to be there. But wanting to be close and being able to sustain closeness are two completely different things. And the avoidant man is trapped in a cycle where he wants intimacy desperately, moves toward it, gets too close, feels the panic rise, and then has to pull back to regulate himself. It is not a choice in the way you might think. It is a compulsion, a survival response. And understanding that is not an excuse for his behavior. It is just context. And context matters. Because here is where it gets interesting. Here is the part that most people never talk about. When an avoidant man falls in real love, when someone actually gets past the wall, when the connection is deep enough and safe enough and real enough that his system starts to respond differently, he does not suddenly become a different person overnight. He does not wake up one day and say, okay, I am ready to be emotionally available now. That is not how it works. What happens instead is much more subtle, much more quiet. And if you do not know what to look for, you will miss it entirely. The first thing he does when he really loves you is he stays when it gets uncomfortable. Think about that for a second. This is a man whose entire internal wiring says run when things get real. Run when emotions get heavy. Run when the conversation goes somewhere that requires him to be seen. His default is to create distance when intimacy increases. So when he stays, when he sits in the discomfort with you instead of disappearing, that is enormous. That is him fighting against his own nervous system because you matter more than his fear in that moment. And this will not always look dramatic. It will not look like a movie scene where he breaks down and tells you everything. It will look like him staying on the phone even when the conversation gets hard. It will look like him not leaving the room during an argument even though every part of him wants to. It will look like him being physically present when he would normally make an excuse to go. And if you are measuring love by grand declarations, you will look right past this. You will not even register it as significant. But it is. It is one of the most significant things an avoidant man can do. The second thing he does when he really loves you is he tells you something he has never told anyone. Not big dramatic secrets necessarily. Sometimes it is something small, something that might not even seem that significant on the surface. He might tell you about something that embarrassed him. He might share a fear that he usually laughs off. He might mention something from his childhood or his past that he has never brought up with anyone else. And then immediately after, you might notice him get a little quiet, a little distant, because the act of sharing that thing made him feel exposed. And exposure is terrifying for him. But he shared it anyway, because something in him trusts you. Something in him wanted you to know him. Not the curated version of himself that he shows the world, the real version. The one underneath the confidence and the self-sufficiency and the I am fine exterior. And that is not something he does casually. That is not something he does with people he is just sleeping with for convenience. That kind of vulnerable disclosure is his version of opening a door. And you need to recognize it for what it is. The third thing he does when he really loves you is he gets jealous but tries to hide it. Now, jealousy is complicated, and I am not here to romanticize it or tell you that jealousy equals love. That is not what I mean. What I am talking about is something more specific. An avoidant man who does not care about you will not register when other men show interest in you. He genuinely will not. Because if he does not have deep feelings invested, the idea of you with someone else simply does not touch him. But when he loves you, when you are actually important to him, he will feel things he does not know how to process. You might notice him get quieter when a certain name comes up. You might notice him ask casual questions that are not actually casual. You might notice him become suddenly more attentive right after you mention spending time with someone else. He is not going to make a scene. He is not going to confront you dramatically, but something will shift. And if you are paying attention, you will feel it. That shift is information. That shift is telling you that you are not interchangeable to him. That shift is telling you that the thought of losing you actually lands somewhere in his body. The fourth thing he does when he really loves you is he initiates in the daylight. Here is the thing about avoidant men and connection. The dark is easy. The late night texts are easy. The private moments are easy. Those exist in a space that does not require commitment. That does not require him to integrate you into his actual life. But the daylight is different. The daylight is where real life happens. The daylight is where real relationships exist. When an avoidant man texts you at 2 a.m, that tells you he wants you in some capacity. But when he calls you on a Tuesday afternoon just to talk, when he suggests making plans in advance, when he thinks of you in the middle of a regular day and reaches out not because he needs something, but just because, that is different. That is him bringing you into the fabric of his everyday life. That is him letting you exist in the space where his actual self lives, not just the part of himself he shares in private. Watch for this. Watch whether he shows up in the daylight or only in the dark. It will tell you more than almost anything else. The fifth thing he does when he really loves you is he comes back and actually addresses what happened. Avoidant men pull away. This is just a reality. Even when they love someone, even when the connection is real and deep and important, the pull toward distance is powerful. And so they will disappear sometimes. They will go quiet. They will retreat into themselves. This will happen. But here is what changes when the love is real. He comes back and he says something. It might not be an eloquent speech. It might not be the apology you hoped for, but he acknowledges it. He might say something like, I know I went quiet for a while. I am not great at this. He might say, I was in my own head, but I am back. He might just show up and be more present than before, which is his way of saying, I know I left and I am choosing to return. This matters more than you know, because a man who is only using you for comfort will disappear and return without a word, without acknowledgement, without any recognition that his pulling away had an impact on you. He will just show back up and act like nothing happened, because to him, nothing of significance happened. But a man who loves you will carry some awareness of what his absence cost. And even if he cannot articulate it perfectly, he will find some way to bridge the gap, some way to acknowledge the rupture and move toward repair. The sixth thing he does when he really loves you is he talks about the future and includes you in it. Avoidants are famously allergic to future talk. Bring up next month and they get uncomfortable. Bring up 6 months from now and they shut down. Bring up anything that implies a continuing trajectory and you will feel them tense up. This is because future talk is commitment talk. And commitment means vulnerability. And vulnerability is the enemy. But something shifts when the love is real. He might not be ready to talk about forever. He might not be ready for the big conversations, but he will start including you in the smaller futures. He will say things like, we should go there sometime. He will make plans that are a few weeks out instead of just seeing each other in the moment. He will reference something you said you wanted to do and actually follow up on it. He will mention you in conversations with his friends or family in ways that suggest you are a fixture, not a passing thing. These small inclusions into his future are significant. They are him letting himself imagine a life that has you in it. And for an avoidant man, letting himself want that, letting himself imagine forward with someone, is an act of real courage. The seventh thing he does when he really loves you is he shows up when you are not at your best. Think about the dynamic you have with him. In what context does he show up? If it is always when things are easy, when you are fun, when you are light and low maintenance and asking nothing of him, that is one thing. But love gets tested in the hard moments. Love reveals itself in the moments that require something. When you are sick, when you are stressed about something at work, when you are going through something with your family, when you are not feeling beautiful or confident or easy to be around, does he disappear in those moments, or does he find a way to be there? It might not look like sitting by your side holding your hand. Avoidant men often show care through action rather than presence. He might show up and fix something practical. He might send you something that acknowledges what you are going through. He might just check in more than usual. But some version of him showing up in the difficult moments is a sign that this is not just about what you offer him when everything is comfortable. The 8th thing he does when he really loves you is he gets nervous. This one is subtle, but it is real. You might notice that around you sometimes he is slightly less smooth, slightly less cool. You might notice that he overthinks things when it comes to you specifically. He might have told you something and then followed up wondering if he said it wrong. He might have seemed unusually uncertain in a moment where you expected confidence. He might have tried to impress you in a way that felt almost boyish, almost uncharacteristic of the composed person he normally presents to the world. That nervousness is love. That nervousness is evidence that you matter so much to him that the idea of getting it wrong actually registers as a threat. And for a man who normally moves through the world with an air of self-sufficiency and detachment, caring about what you think of him is massive. It is him allowing himself to be affected by you. It is him letting your opinion of him have weight. The 9th thing he does when he really loves you is he defends you. Not necessarily in dramatic public ways, but in moments where you are not there. If someone says something dismissive about you, he does not laugh along. If a friend implies that you are just someone he is seeing casually, he corrects that. If there is a narrative forming around you that does not reflect how he actually sees you, he speaks up. Because when you love someone, protecting how they are seen and spoken about becomes important to you. You do not let people reduce them, even when it would be easier to say nothing. If you have ever had a moment where someone told you he actually defended you when you came up, take note of that. That is not the behavior of a man who sees you as temporary or convenient. That is the behavior of a man who has decided you matter to him. The 10th thing he does when he really loves you is he lets the silence be comfortable. This one sounds strange, but hear me out. Avoidant men are often performative in relationships that are not deep. They keep things entertaining. They keep things moving. They manage the energy of the interaction because genuine stillness with someone is intimate. Genuine stillness means you are just present together. No performance, no distraction. Just two people being together without anything to fill the space. That level of presence requires trust. It requires feeling safe. It requires letting down the performance. And when an avoidant man gets to a point with you where he can just be still with you, where he does not need to manage everything, where he can sit in silence and not feel the need to escape it, that is him letting his guard down in one of the most real ways possible. Because quiet is vulnerable, and he does not share his quiet with just anyone. Now I want to address something, because I know some of you are reading these signs and comparing them to your situation and feeling a mix of hope and uncertainty. I know some of you are saying, he does some of these things, but not others. And I want to be honest with you about something important. Avoidant men who genuinely love someone will still cause pain. They will still pull away. They will still have moments of emotional unavailability that leave you feeling confused and alone. Love does not cure avoidant attachment. And a man can love you and still be incapable of giving you what you need right now. Those two things can both be true simultaneously. And this is where you have to be really honest with yourself. Because the question is not only, does he love me? The question is this love sustainable in the way I need it to be right now? Is he moving toward growth? Is he making any kind of effort to show up differently, or is he just repeating the same cycle, giving you just enough to keep you there while never actually building anything real? An avoidant man who loves you and is willing to grow will be uncomfortable, but he will not be stagnant. You will see movement, slow movement, but movement. He will be learning how to stay even when he wants to run. He will be learning how to say things even when it is hard. He will not be perfect at it, but you will see him trying. An avoidant man who loves you but is not willing to grow will still make you feel the same confusion over and over. He will give you glimpses of real connection and then close the door. He will apologize without changing. He will want you without choosing you consistently. And you deserve to see that for what it is, not as a reflection of your worth, but as a reflection of where he is. You cannot love someone into readiness. You cannot be patient enough or understanding enough or loving enough to make someone do the work they have not decided to do. You can offer someone a safe space to grow, but they have to choose to walk into it. And if they are not choosing that, if they are comfortable staying exactly where they are while you wait, that is not a love story. That is a waiting room. And you were not made to sit in a waiting room. There is also something I want to say directly to the women who have convinced themselves that the physical connection is enough, that the intimacy you share is evidence of something deeper, that the fact that he keeps coming back means he will eventually come all the way. I hear you, and I understand why that feels true, because the connection is real, the chemistry is real. And when someone makes you feel that way, it is so easy to interpret intensity as depth, to interpret longing as love. But intensity is not the same as depth. And a man who keeps coming back to you for the feeling you give him is not the same as a man who is choosing you for who you are. The difference is this: does he seek out the version of you that is inconvenient? The version that asks for things, that has needs, that takes up space, that requires him to show up? Or does he only seek out the version of you that is easy? The version that does not ask too much, that accepts whatever he gives, that is available when he decides to appear. Love seeks out both versions. Love shows up for the inconvenient parts too. And if he has only ever known the easy version of you, you might want to ask yourself whether you have been making yourself smaller to keep him comfortable, and whether the version of you he keeps coming back to is actually the full you at all. Because here is the thing about avoidant men and standards. When you have none, they stay. When you become clear about what you need, when you become someone who actually enforces their own standards with peace and confidence and without drama, something shifts. For some avoidant men, that clarity is what wakes them up. That groundedness is what signals to them that this is safe, this is real. This person knows their worth, and that makes them worth fighting for. For others, the moment you hold a standard, they leave. And that is painful. But it is also clarifying. Because a man who leaves the moment you require something is not a man who was ever going to give you what you needed. He was only comfortable when you were asking for nothing. And you do not want a love that only works when you need nothing. You want a love that can hold you, that can hold all of you, that does not shrink when you show up fully. So let me leave you with this. If you are with an avoidant man and you see those signs I described, if he stays in the discomfort, if he shares things he has never shared, if he initiates in the daylight and comes back and addresses what happened, if he lets you into his future and shows up when things are hard, if he gets nervous around you and defends you when you are not in the room, if he can just be still with you, those are real signs. Those are signs worth paying attention to. Those are signs that something genuinely real is happening beneath the surface. But signs are not a substitute for a conversation. Signs are not a substitute for clarity. And at some point, after you have extended grace and patience and understanding, you deserve to also have a direct, honest conversation about what this is and where it is going. Not an ultimatum delivered in frustration, not a breakdown after months of holding everything in, but a calm, grounded, clear conversation where you say what you actually need and you listen to what he actually says. And then you believe what he shows you, not just what he says, not just what he feels in the moment, what he consistently shows you over time. Because love is not a feeling that comes and goes. Love is a series of choices made over and over again, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. And you deserve someone who keeps choosing you, not someone who keeps almost choosing you. You deserve the real thing. And do not let the almost real thing talk you out of knowing that. Drop the word avoidant in the comments right now if this hits something in you. And if you want more content like this, content that actually helps you understand what is happening and what to do about it, subscribe, because we are just getting started.